The spirit of the show is going through these guys. We're going to be good. Yeah, I love those sounds.
Wipe those tears from your eyes now, Sally.
Yes.
Rise, Sally,
We are
rise.
live on the YouTube, baby.
Oh, he's real.
The spirit of the show is going through these guys. We're going to be good. Yes. Right.
Okay, so now the next thing we got to do, I'm going to hide this.
Hello, everyone out in YouTube land. It's Darrell and Ed.
Okay, are we
Schoonover
recording
today.
now so I don't forget, or right at the beginning?
Yeah. Record now.
You sure Jeff will know what to do?
Yep.
Okay. I'm trusting Edward.
Let me just get this going on Facebook, and then we'll crack in. Come on, Facebook.
This is so Darrell and Ed know where to look. I'm going to put that on the camera. Oops.
I understand. When I do my lesson, I mark up with symbols, so it helps keep me where I'm supposed to be. Partly because of being dyslexic, I had to create a system, but it
Checks
works.
and balances. Well, we're very excited to have you. Lots of exciting things happening the past few weeks in our lives. I can't even think of all the things. Colds, cars, fires,
Cold hard cash.
miracles. Everything was a miracle. Best quote I heard, two great quotes from Winston Churchill. One is, what seems to be misfortune often turns out to be good fortune, and vice versa. And he also said, because he was asked, because he had a very long, successful marriage. His wife was really part of his team. They were a real good couple. So he was asked, what's the success to longevity in a healthy relationship?
The
Ed?
secret to success?
No, in a relationship, like a marriage.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what it is?
I do want to know, yes. You said, what's the success? It's probably said, what's the secret to success?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
To longevity
Yep.
in a relationship. And
Go
Winston
on.
Churchill said,
Farting at night under the
no,
covers?
better and true to neither speak with or see your spouse or each other until afternoon. And me and Lori said, that is so true.
Yep. That's why I always say, I wish these schools started at like 10 a.m.
They should. They should start at 10 a.m. so the
Yeah.
kids are like, not just, get up, have a bowl of sugar and thrown on a bus.
That's right. All right, so we're recording. Facebook, YouTube is on. We got Reverend Michael Schoonover. We bless this show for today, and then you're going to hide away in the shadows, turn off your mic until we're ready for you.
Okay. Well, I am excited, and I just invite each and every one of us just to turn within, as Charles Roberto Fillmore would say. Whenever we need, whenever we desire, we turn within and remember who we are, that we are divine, that we are the Christ, and that we are in this dimension at this time by choice, which means we have the power to create and make the decisions that we want to experience in our life. So we embrace that truth, we study that truth, and we know by living this truth, we can have peace and success and prosperity in any dreams or desires that we feel that are nudging us toward them. We welcome them into our life, because spirit is all goodness. Spirit is all goodness, and the goodness of God is always available to us. And we just say, and we know in deep gratitude, thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
And so it is.
And so it is. All
I
right.
will see you.
We'll see
Yes,
you
you
in
will.
28 minutes or so.
Okay.
All right.
You ready, Ed?
Yes, sir.
We're ready to begin the show. Welcome to The Funniest Thing,
Yes.
where each week we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes.
Yes, it does.
I'm Darrell,
I'm Ed.
and we're broadcasting live from middle school studios in beautiful downtown Culver City, the heart of Screenland.
Oh, man, this is an exciting day.
Oh, everyone loves the topic of the best life has to offer.
That's right.
But
Today we
added
are
a little something.
Yes, today we are accepting the best life has to offer with Reverend Michael Schoonover. finding the good in situations, even undesirable ones, and feeling grateful is a spiritual superpower. When we express gratitude, we're living with faith that blessings of all kinds are constantly unfolding and the goodness of God is in all things. Living with gratitude activates the law of increase. When you live with an attitude of gratitude, you are simply magnetic. On this episode, Darrell and Ed discuss how gratitude ignites the expectation that we will have what we need when we need it, and that we will always be in the right place at the right time. And during the second segment, Grad Daddy, Reverend Michael Schoonover, motivates listeners to accept the best life has to offer with today's reading from Joyce Kramer, which is Positive Words. It is Joyce Kramer, huh?
Yep.
Yes, it is. Wow, man. This is such a great topic. This has just been coming up nonstop, the gratitude. So,
And if people are listening and you happen to hear some background mechanical construction sounding tools, electronic tools, power
Yes.
tools going, there's actually some construction happening near middle school studios. And something, I actually kind of like ambient sounds on a podcast because it takes you into another world when I'm listening to them, like they're out, on the beach in Hawaii and they're doing it and you could hear waves and you hear people, in the background on the beach.
it's funny because we don't usually have any ambient noise, and who knows if it's even being picked up. It might be, but I was just listening to you talk about this with Jeff Trujillo on the podcast you just did, which is I Was There, with an exclamation point. Look it up anywhere you get podcasts. Darrell talks about the same stuff he talks about on the show, and it all is like centered around his new book. What's the name? Step Out Boldly?
Step Out Boldly, the hidden meaning of the Statue of Liberty.
I really recommend reading it. And it's so funny. Just yesterday, I heard you talking about ambient noise, and so today, here we go.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
But I do like that. Don't you, when you listen to some podcast and they're like doing it live from, some center or something?
Oh,
and
I
you
love
hear
that.
the muffle of the voices
Right.
at the convention center.
It's true.
Because it pulls me into that world.
Yeah, I like that too. Tom Thorpe's show kind of sometimes would have, a long time ago, Discovering Eric Butterworth. If there was like other people around, you'd hear them.
Because it's like, what was I going to say? It makes it less sterile. It's like I'm listening to people just like me in a natural environment.
Yes. So I was thinking about this show today, and this whole idea of gratitude, and it just brought me back to what Tom Thorpe said when he was on that episode. I think you're out of commission that day, and but he just brought up 1 Thessalonians 5:18, and I've thought about it a lot since then. And I looked it up on the Metaphysical Bible on truthunity.net, and it says, "Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus to you." And remember, Christ is the divine I am within you. So it just struck me when I read that, because I've had places in my life where I thought it was wise for some reason, or I thought it was mandatory to accept fear as real and accept that complaining and powerlessness, inwardly or outwardly, was the correct or only mental course of action I could take. And remember, any mental course of action is the way I'm praying. So when I would have meetings in the past, for example, my mind would just go into, I'm going to get in trouble. I didn't do it good enough. This is going to be stressful. And I didn't know that my job was to direct my subconscious mind, that I was the one. I didn't know how to do that yet. So, and I'm still learning. And I would just accept it. Because remember, whatever we're thinking or feeling is prayer. And that can feel scary because our subconscious mind is likely telling us at those moments that whatever the situation is, that there's no hope. And Darrell's been saying it recently, wherever there is hope, recovery follows. So we want to ignite hope. And this is the beauty of it. This is where I'm learning to return to the principle mentioned in this Bible verse, that when I give thanks, that in all circumstances, meaning redirect my mind from the habit of thought of complaining and fear, which is really just mental laziness. I didn't know this before. I got to exercise my mind sometimes. When it just wants to do what it's always done, if I just give into that, that's really a kind of like a mental laziness. And I was talking about meetings at work. I used this one day at work because I came back. So we had a 2-week break. Then I had 2 days on. Then the fires were burning near my house. Then my school got shut down. And I'm all well and good, so don't worry about that. I got very blessed. But when I came back, my mind went into this like, I'm tired, it's going to be a hard week, blah, blah, blah. And I had a meeting the next day that I needed to get things done for. So it's one thing for me to go to school knowing I just got to teach that day, but then there's like another level when there's like paperwork and planning for a meeting that must happen the next day. So, but you know what? I caught myself and I just said, no, Ed, this is the best day ever. Everything's going well today. I am loved and appreciated here. I started inserting new thoughts. I just, said, new plan, mind, new plan. It's all is well now. There's no need to suffer. Whatever paperwork is being done, it's being done with ease. I'm not staying late. I'm not taking it home. It's being done easy, and the meeting is great. I love it. And I'm just like play acting at this moment, myself feeling that way. I ended up having a great day. The paperwork got done really, really easily. Like, I couldn't believe it. First of all, there was less to do than my fearful mind was imagining. And then it just got done really, really quickly. And I was actually really pleased with it. And I was actually looking forward to the meeting, which was the next day. And wouldn't you know, that next morning before the meeting, so I had been given a sub that day to help because of these meetings. And she was a great woman who was a great teacher, and she was able to help me. So my day actually got easier because now I had another teacher to help me. And then the parent called and canceled the meeting. So now the meeting was gone, and I had an extra person helping me. And then one other piece was, there was one person who I was imagining was like stressing, and I was almost like, well, she's stressing, I better stress too, and I better. But instead of that, this is part of it. It's like, I don't, it's not just giving gratitude for myself, but it's also not holding anything negative stories about other people. I let go of that story and blessed her and didn't say like, that's who she is. I just let it go. And wouldn't you know, when I told her that the meeting had been canceled, she said, oh my God, that's great, because none of this stuff is worth stressing or losing my peace of mind over. That's the decision I've made. So she immediately reflected back the same decision. And it all came from giving thanks now in all circumstances, which, again, sometimes certain circumstances are going to trigger this like auto worry or and it's like, that's where I have to become like a child. And how can I think about this new and in a fun way? And that's where Darrell always talks about, like Florence Scovel Shin style. Say fun affirmations, joyous affirmations. Do it with a spirit of play and wonder, like we were children, because in reality, we still are.
Now, did you say the significance that it says in and not for?
Oh, yeah. You want to talk about that?
Well, because that's key.
Yeah, that was the first thing that triggered all of this.
Yeah, because most beseeching people rejoice for all situations.
Yeah, they think they're supposed to, yeah.
Yeah, this is horrible, but, it's the will of God.
Yes.
But that's not, this is the thing. When you're rejoicing in a situation, you're actually becoming an alchemist.
Yes.
Because it's all energy.
Yes.
And the first energy, if it's negative and we feel it, that's fine. Because here's the definition Unity has of the word prayer. Mm-hmm. Prayer is a positive mental transmutation of energy within your own mind.
Yes.
Reverend Ike has his short version. Prayer is a positive mind conditioning process. If you're not conditioning your mind positively, then it's not prayer, period. All that beseeching is not prayer. It's worry, it's ingratitude, it's condemnation. And what does it do? It attracts more of the same, because energy never dies. And just like, who's the guy who had the apple fall on his head? Newton. Sir Isaac Newton. He used a spiritual idea that long preceded his material theory. We attract what we give out. It had been in the Bible, centuries before Newton came along. So because of that idea, he was inspired to go, wait a minute, this is true in the material world as well. These laws are true because they're true. And what that is for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And so when we give out good, when we're in gratitude, we're actually doing the highest form of prayer. When you're just like, we could remind ourselves of this. Like when you go, oh man, I love my car, or oh man, I love any little thing. It's not just you appreciating just that thing.
Mm-hmm.
By appreciating one little thing, you're actually transforming everything for the better.
Yes.
Because now you've jumped into a higher frequency. Like the word alchemy, it's a mystical idea. It's not just, there's
Yes.
it's just like a parable.
Yes.
There's the surface story. Wouldn't you love to be able to turn, metals that are
like lead, for example.
readily available into something precious?
Yes, like gold.
But
is
what
often the
they
case.
were really, the lesson was, or the point of alchemy is to understand that it's a spiritual and mental idea where we're taking, like Ed was sharing, these fearful, worried, concerned thoughts, but I'm going to be an alchemist and I am going to transform these
Yes.
these heavy lead. It's funny that they use the word lead, one of the heaviest substances, dense, very dense. I'm going to transform this lead in my mind right now to something precious. And the quickest way is to rejoice. You got to read, your mom sent you the perfect,
Yeah.
can you read that?
Yeah.
The biblical verse.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
whole one that she sent.
Yeah, I got it right here.
It's undeniable. It kicks you right upstairs.
Yep.
Because things happened even this morning here. There's
You
some
woke
work.
up with workers on your roof that
Yeah,
weren't you were working on your house.
Yeah, workers working on another house, but they had ladders and stuff on my roof. And just so you know, the house was built in 1924, so I'm pretty sure the roof is paper thin. But I come walking home and I go, wait a minute, that guy's on my roof with a ladder, which is, a high heel. The point of pressure on a woman's high heel is significant compared to just a flat shoe.
Right.
Because all the weight is concentrated. So it was a miracle the ladder didn't puncture through my roof.
Right.
So I had to make it clear that they can't do that. It's unsafe. And then have, smooth things over with the tenants in that other property, along with the owner of that company came by.
Yeah.
And it all worked out miraculous. But let me tell you, I had to continue to practice alchemy within on my own mind.
Yeah. I mean, it took creative thought for you because you got Stephen Tom Thorpe to come over who speaks Spanish.
Yes.
And, like the fact that you had those thoughts and that presence of mind to not only bless it, but actually, because this is everything the reason I'm mentioning that is because prayer is faith. I mean, patience and gratitude is faith in action.
Yes.
And you received these ideas and you took action on them as well.
Well, and I also had to overcome the concern about not being a nice guy.
Yeah.
Oh, just let him. God always takes care of you. But something in me knows you got to say something.
Yes. Remember, nice comes from like playing dumb,
When
stupid,
you know better.
pretending you're stupid.
Yeah, when you know
Yeah.
better. So everything went, of course, better than expected. But thank God that all of us, you listening, Darrell and Ed here, we continuously, daily practice being aware of where our mind is taking us by how we feel.
Yeah.
And because now we know better, it's hard to continue to behave in the old way.
Yeah.
I don't have the effort, and it takes more energy to do it the old way.
Yeah.
So we got to transmute that energy, and
Yes.
that's really what gratitude is all about. It's the quickest form of
Yes.
alchemy
Yes.
to change your circumstances into something precious. It makes everything improve.
Yes.
And gratitude is synonymous with appreciation. So anything we're grateful for or we appreciate goes up in value.
Yeah.
Just like a home. When
Yeah.
you appreciate your home and you love it and you dress it up nice,
Yeah.
it goes up in value.
That's right.
Everything does.
Yeah, when you dress yourself up nice or treat yourself lovingly as well, you go up in value and
Yes.
you become magnetic.
And it just starts with thinking kind things about yourself.
And giving thanks for what is there to give
Yes.
thanks for. It doesn't mean giving thanks and saying, "Oh God, thank you for delivering this problem," because
No.
God doesn't deliver problems. That's one of the important things about being a truth student in metaphysics. It's spirit is all good, and problems are the creation of our imagination. They're built. They're through human imagination, through our mind. So that's what allows us to give thanks, because we want to get back in harmony with this ever-present good. And it's funny. So I'll read what my mother sent. I'm just going to read this one paragraph. I knew there was something from Kupferle I wanted to read. I wasn't sure what. And one of the paragraphs, you just talked about saying that Mary Kupferle is a Unity writer, a minister who was a Unity minister. Her book, God Will See You Through, is one I highly recommend. We both do. It's just pure, positive, very light. This is why I love Unity. We both do, as in particular, because the writers who are really writing from this perspective write with a lightness.
And yes, and simplicity.
So and practicality. And she says prayer in this chapter was called Everything is Working for Good, which is why we can give thanks.
Yeah.
Because my mind is telling me it's not. But I know better. Like, I'm learning to know better, because in God's mind, in the truth, in this ever increasing good that's all around me, everything is working for good. And she says prayer is not for the purpose of changing God, but to help us turn our innermost thoughts and feelings into the conditioned state of awareness that enables his healing, strengthening, peace-giving presence to work through us. When Jesus told his disciples that they ought always to pray and not lose heart, he was saying, in effect, that we are to persist in believing that everything is working for good. And that's where you can have your indignation or your demonstration, like, was that Emmett Fox that said that?
Fox,
It's because it can feel really tempting to want to have the indignation to tell people about it, but it gets nowhere. It is really the blind leading the blind. And the end of that statement is, and everyone ends up in the lurch. When the blind lead the blind, everyone ends up in the ditch. That's why, that statement has meaning. And so my mom this morning happened to send me this Bible quote that she said is her favorite, which is amazing. Yeah, she said, always be, this is from, I think it's from Philippians 4.
It says it at the bottom. I saw it.
Yeah, it says it here, but I think this is the next one is Philippians 4. I think I looked it up. So
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure, but somewhere in Philippians 4, I believe.
Well, Michael now when he comes on.
And it says, always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. Let everyone see that you are considerate in all you do. Remember, the Lord is coming. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. That's the beauty of it. When we understand it all and our brain tells us it's not working, it's not going to work, what God has in mind that's just like an immature, truly uninformed level of thinking. Because God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand, that's why it's reliable, because it always exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. And remember, that means as you live in the God, from the God within. And so when it says always be full of joy in the Lord, it could also be said always be full of joy in the law, or this principle that you can rely on, that there's always reason to give thanks. And as soon as it turns me into a different person that is now able to access the solution and start celebrating life again now, not waiting for some inordinate amount of time or hoping that, but it means now. And it blows away every rule. We don't realize, I don't realize how many rules have been written out of fear and ignorance, but they've been etched in the back of my subconscious mind. This blows away all those rules. This is all good all the time. And the sooner we get into gratitude and the sooner we recognize our own divine magnificence, the better off everyone is. Better than if we fall on our sword and tell people we're bad or beg for forgiveness or beg God. better than all of that. Get into gratitude and give thanks. Then we're in right back in the flow of life. And remember, affluence means in the flow.
Well, you know what remember the Lord is coming means in metaphysical?
Let's hear that.
It means everything's working out. Don't remember. That's what it's saying. The Lord is coming means this principle is at work, and everything is working together for good. Don't panic. Don't become impatient.
Yes.
And don't curse it, because you're only going to delay it, because now you're back in that heavy energy.
Yes. I wish I brought that James Decker because I know what you were talking about, because you just said it. On the Tuesday Prosperity Zoom, I shared that for me, I learned a new understanding of the word patience this week, which goes with gratitude, which is patience is relaxing and giving thanks because we're so aware that the good is on its way.
Yes.
And how that affects me personally, I didn't realize how much stress was coming from me going, why aren't you feeling good right now, Ed? Why aren't you, you're never going to feel good. Like being very impatient with the God within myself. So I'm learning to be patient with the God within myself, which is actually a state of, like we talk about the meaning of faith, of joyful expectation of what's even going to come through me. Yes. That for me is like, feeling that is like, wow, what an amazing feeling.
Well, yeah, patience was always taught as a way to suffer, just like tolerant. You need to be tolerant.
Yeah.
And those words take on terrible connotations when they're not shared by the right people. And then as a kid, you just believe that's what they mean.
Yes.
But patience doesn't mean miserably sit there, and withstand something that feels bad. Because possibly it'll change.
Right.
No, what patience is a state. It's a state of living in the joy of believing that God is making improvements.
Yeah.
Like if you could, and it's also a combination of gratitude and receptivity. Because when you're just grateful that things are, that God's making improvements, and you can live in that, choose to. It's a choice. You remember, prayer is a positive mental transmutation of energy within your own mind. And when I'm in that, I could pretty much withstand anything, because nothing is now necessary to withstand, because I'm in this meditative state, even though I'm not meditating, that God's making improvements. Well, I don't need an answer right now. I just know no news is good news. I used to not understand what that meant. People, no news is good news. And I just went, what does that even mean? And Dugan, many years ago, I would say, well, I haven't heard back about this job interview. And he would say, no news is good news. And in that situation, it seemed absurd to say that, because most of the time, no news is good news meant you were fearing something.
Right.
Something horrible was going to happen, but no news meant good news. You're off the hook. It looks like the prosecuting attorney has changed his mind.
Right.
No news is good news. But Dugan flipped it for me by associating it with something I wanted and changed the way I saw about patience.
Yeah.
So no news is good news means God's working on the improvements. Don't worry. It's going to be this or something better. That's what no news is good news means.
Yeah.
And that's what living in patience means, when we understand that it's having that joy of knowing or choosing to believe that God is making improvements. God's working on it now. He's arranging things. Divine orchestration is happening. So let me go clean the dishes.
Yes.
Because God's doing the heavy lifting on whether or not so-and-so is going to contact me, or how am I ever going to get from here to there, or how am I ever going to get, whatever that desire is. And I've been using that this past few weeks, and I've been loving it. I'm back like Eye of the Tiger, like Rocky.
Same.
I was cleaning my kitchen floor, doing, the chores, because other things were happening, and I was high as a kite. And I'm going, this is like when I was new.
Yeah. It's so simple. It changes everything, man. This is so great. I'm so glad you're saying that. And James A. Decker talked about that in the reading that I read last week or whenever I read it, which was like, when we're truly in this state of joyful anticipation and patience in that way, then it allows us to go out and finish the paperwork or wash the floor or take our car to the car wash or
we know
whatever.
God's working on the things we desire.
Yeah, we're no longer putting our worth or everything we do has to be trying to part of our scheme. It's
I have to make more calls. I have to make more calls. I didn't send enough emails. That defeats itself because that energy, I got to send more emails, is saying, I don't believe that God's going to take care of this or this is going to work out.
Yeah.
But so it's coming from fear is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And anything, even what seems like a good intention to make more sales calls, when it comes from fear, it has the seed of its own destruction. It never works.
Yeah, and that's where we really got to stick to the principle that fear is always false evidence appearing real. It wouldn't compel us if it didn't appear real.
One quick thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quick example of this.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this week I got notice about a medical bill.
Okay.
And I was like, oh man, this shouldn't be $550 something because I should be covered for this.
So that was a legit bill.
It was from the treating facility.
That is to say, it wasn't $25; it was $500.
$541.
$541, in fact.
So the first thought is, man, I got to deal with this. You know, what went wrong? Did I screw up? Did I not give the right information? And I had to go, no, we're going to practice alchemy, gratitude as the magic ingredient in alchemy, and using prayer as a positive mental transmutation of this bad energy in my own mind. So I know now, Darrell, you got to bless it, eat something because I needed to eat. And when you feel really enthusiastic, then make the call. And once you do that, your brain goes to work. God starts working. Intuition starts coming through. I started eating and go, I know what I got to do. I'm going to call the provider, my carrier, and find out what information I need. And then I'll call the billing medical center and give them that information, right? So I go, okay, God already told me who to call first. Instead of just going and calling the medical facility,
right?
And so God goes, which is weird because why would you call this place first? So I went with it. I call, and what happens? They pick right up. So I explained. I said, I got this bill, and I just wanted to know what the right numbers. I may not have given the medical group the proper information.
Right.
And she goes, okay, well, what's the medical group and this and that? And I said, this and that, and she gave me the information. I said, oh, this is great. So I'll call them now. She goes, no. She goes, I'll call them. I go, really?
Wow.
She goes, yeah, stay on the line. She gets, and of course, she got right in. Boom, the people come up. Now the other person, and everyone was so kind.
Oh, my God.
The lady from the insurance is saying, yes, you're going to have to call with this number and make a new claim. And she said, that's fine, because you could put it in now, even if you didn't put it in the beginning. And the lady's going, oh, great. And that lady's asking questions. And the other lady is saying don't worry, this is all covered, but you got to do this, X, Y, and Z. And then they asked for, the person's address. And I jumped in and gave the address. And everyone was so happy. And then the lady from the medical group said, okay, Mr. Fazaro, this is probably going to take 7 to 10 days. The lady from the insurance goes, oh, can I help you with anything else? And I'm like, this is heaven. Wow. This is heaven. One other thing, our website wasn't working. I couldn't get it to work. And most website companies, you have to go through just chats and stuff or send emails. And I was telling Steven, our friend, about it, because I was like, oh man, I don't know what's going on, because we pay for the pro, the pro version. So we don't have any ads or anything on our website.
Right. So
he says, well, call. And I'm looking and I find a number and but then I eat. And then I get joyful. Oh, I'm going to call him and this will be easy. Like, this is the thing. Transmute this energy. And I'm not saying it's like, I'm a special person who has special powers. No, I'm saying this with you folks because this is what we can all do. Like, and it works.
Yes.
And it still blows my mind. So, of course, what happened? I mean, this is like a sequel of the last thing. I call, someone picks right up.
Wow.
I explained the problem. She says, well, it sounds like your caches. No, first she says, do I have permission to go in and work on the site from my end and try to replicate what you've been trying to do? And it's not working.
Right.
I said, absolutely, go for it. She goes, okay. It worked fine. And I could feel myself a little bit of that bad energy, like, oh no, they're not getting it. I said, no, Darrell, don't argue with it. So I said, well, what do you think it could be? She goes, well, let's go. You're going to have to clear out your caches. I go, well, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
She walked me through it and she goes, yeah, just clear them all. It's not going to hurt your computer or anything. Just clear them all. So I go, okay, bink. She goes, okay, now restart your computer. I said, all right. And she's waiting for me.
Wow.
I said, well, just hang on. I go, it's warming up. She goes, no problem. It was like I had friends.
That's
friends.
amazing.
And what happened? It worked like a charm.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and she goes, oh, great. I'm glad to hear it's working. And I said, thank you so much. I said, I'm so glad it was just something on my end.
Yeah.
That it wasn't something big. This was incredible.
Yes.
We get evidence. There's two things that we always try to remind folks that listen that are the two things that make practical spirituality a wonderful way of life. But you need to be aware of these two things. One, follow the breadcrumbs. Like we're both talking about today, listening to the intuitive guide, not the fearful, we got to better jump on this now.
Yeah.
No, the intuitive guide. Listen to the intuitive guide that comes in. That's number one. And if you're not sure, wait. Say, okay, I'm not sure if this is the right thing to do. That's okay. Go wait. And if it is the right thing, it'll come up.
Yeah.
Because God doesn't do spite work. God doesn't work. God isn't impatient. God never hurries.
Right.
And then two, connect the dots. That's the only reason I was able to recount these stories, because I'm always connecting the dots, which reinforces the truth that the cause, meaning practicing these ideas, implementing them like I did, like Ed does, and then what are the results of the experiment?
That's right.
They're
Write them down.
They're always better than expected.
Always. Yeah. You got to write them down so your subconscious learns from them.
Yes.
It doesn't go back to its old ways. When you were speaking earlier about how the energy never dies, your energy, it was funny. I was talking to my aunt, Anita, who watches our show. Hello. And my Uncle Mario, who just passed, was 90, and he was a physicist. And Aunt Anita told me that Uncle Mario always told her that your energy never leaves the universe, just from his physics perspective. So it's funny that I know he's with us today, blessing us. So thank you for that. And then, this stuff will show up everywhere. I've been blessing that school, and then these kids were giving their presentations about their life and like their kind of heritage. And there's one girl who came from Africa, and her name's Joanna, and she said her name means God is gracious.
Yeah.
And she said, because God is gracious. Like, it was amazing. She was giving a truth talk in the school. Amazing. Beautiful stuff. So let's thank the Patreon subscribers for, keeping us inspired and sharing your prosperity with us, and we can share it back with you. It's a great way to stay in the flow of prosperity. Patreon.com/funniest thing. You can join our Tuesday Zooms, which have been amazing lately. On YouTube, Sherry Knight said, thank you for sharing your bright lights and positivity. Grateful for the three of you. That was with CC Gaitan. Susan Sly said, thanks for the seagull story and positive vibes. If you want to send us something, funniest thing, P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232. Did you have a postcard or no?
I do. I have one postcard from Kirk. On the front, it's Mookie Mouse loves you, and he drew a
drunk Mickey Mouse?
bad Mickey Mouse. And the joke, it's an inside joke, because when we were kids, there was always an aunt who got you
The cheap version.
the cheap version of Donald Duck or something. It
Yeah.
didn't quite look right. It was
Right.
like, it was almost spelled, but it was like Dookie Duck.
Yeah, right.
It was like the company was trying to fool you.
Yes.
But on the back it says, our thoughts and acts ride on a return circuit, and they never fail to react upon us. Ernest Holmes. So our thought, that's what we were talking about all the
Yeah.
whole show. Our thoughts and acts ride on a return circuit, and they never fail to react upon us. Ernest Holmes, that's the
Yes.
same as every action,
Yes.
every vibration of our thoughts and how we feel has an opposite and equal reaction.
Yeah.
Comes back.
Barbara Weatherman just said hi, guys. So hopefully she agrees. Thanks to the chief engineer, Jeff Comfort. Actually, this last week's episode just came out. There was a little bit of confusion, but so look for the CC Gaitan episode on the podcast app if you haven't already. Don't miss it. It was a really good one. But we want to thank the chief engineer, Jeff Comfort, because each week
He takes us
right into the comfort zone.
I love the flyby.
Our three breaths.
Oh, these
come
are my
from Reverend
favorites.
Ike.
Well, Reverend Ike I actually made him a little, Reverend Ike just did a piece of it, this last
Okay.
part. But Reverend Ike did a great change of lyrics to a song.
Yeah.
And we kicked him up a little more so we could turn them into breaths.
Yeah, so let's take a deep breath to clear our mind. This is what gratitude will do for you. Wipe those tears from your eyes now, Sally. And rise, Sally, rise. Put a little more on that, will you?
Yeah. Wipe those tears from your eyes now, Sally. Rise, Sally, rise. Wipe those tears from your eyes now, Sally.
Rise, Sally, rise. Oh, can I read this real quick? Hopefully, Reverend Michael will forgive us out there in Schoonover land. We're running a little later than usual, but I have to read this from Secrets by Francis Wilshire. Here's the deal. When we give thanks in all circumstances, when you were talking about your calls, this is what it made me realize. We are giving thanks that we are an expression of the divine and that only God is real. So when we bless what's in front of us, even if it seems meager, like the loaves of fishes, we're not saying, oh, thank you for this little bit. We're saying, thank you, God, that I am so powerful, that all is so good, that I'm not afraid, and I'm blessing this, and I'm magnifying and multiplying the good, and the good is presenting itself to me now, and I'm inviting that good into my life. It's such a different way to approach this, because one way is saying, oh, I'm not very much. The other way is saying, I am so much that I'm not even afraid of this what's it, not even demonstration, but something that this appearance of lack.
Well, actually, the wrong way of rejoicing for everything rather
Yes.
than in everything is actually a well-known scene. This was demonstrated in a movie, a popular movie called Animal House.
Yes.
And they're trying to show the inappropriate way to give gratitude,
Yeah.
where the guys are getting whacked and they go, thank you, sir. May I have
That's
another?
right.
That's what Ed used to do.
That's true. I'm still learning. So Francis Wilshire said, when you ask God for a thing and at the same time receive it. No, that's not what I want to say. Oh, here it is. This is all good. But she said, now my vital secret for you is this. When you have gratitude for anything, you touch the spirit of the thing you are grateful for, and it releases more and more of that quality into your life. You really enter into the spiritual world back of the thing you are grateful for. And I think that's true even if you're giving thanks for lack, which you don't want to do. You want to give thanks for the abundance, so the spirit of that comes in. And the radiance from your gratitude touches more and more of the good you want. Isn't that magical, what real gratitude will do? So show gratitude for everything and anything, and everything will love and adore to come to you.
Yeah.
All God's channels will open up and your good will flow to you because your current of power is now established by your joyful acceptance, and nothing can keep your desire from you. And that is good news. Coming up next, Grad Daddy. Reverend Michael Schoonover motivates listeners and viewers even to accept the best life has to offer with today's reading, positive words. Thank you for listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, live from middle school studios in beautiful downtown Culver City.
Do people know Grad Daddy means grateful daddy?
I don't know, because grad is an interesting way for grateful. But it's so good. I think everyone gets it. Let's see the grad daddy's face. Man, Barbara, I knew you'd agree. Michael Schoonover, we're about to unleash the flamethrower on the crowd, so thank you for holding tight.
Oh, and thank you for sending me that thing.
Oh, you are so welcome. Darrell just went to tinkle. Might have to do that too, but we're gonna get it started here. I don't even want you to open that metaphysical mouth of yours until we're actually in the segment, because I know you're gonna have so much good to say. I don't want to miss a thing, as Aerosmith said. Well, how about this? What's something, I know you've been listening to music. What have you been listening to today or last night?
See, I haven't been listening to any music. I went to Walmart and I went to take my tithe out of Citibank, and somebody hacked my account with my debit card for $700 at a bar in Boston.
Ah,
So I was up quite a long time because I called Citibank and they said you have to call back in an hour.
oh wow.
System. So I'm like, okay. So, I just went through the process,
Yeah.
It's all good. I'm deserving of a new card and a new number. I guess that's a good thing.
There you go. And someone had a darn fine time, it sounds like, in the meanwhile.
Well, they're going to find time until they get, so it's good. It's life happens, you just.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Go with the flow.
Yeah.
And the thing is, ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Ebb and flow.
Right.
Everyone talks about flow. If you didn't have low tide, high tide, there's rhythm in that.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think sometimes in divine order, we think of order like putting pieces on a puzzle.
Right.
Order is a lot bigger than that. There's a rhythm, there's a harmony. It's blending together, as you know, in music.
Yes.
And I think sometimes I think order has such a bigger concept within us that we don't take advantage of.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4. That's order. No, order is being in the flow. It's being in that circuit. It's being in that. It's being present to be present.
All right. I like that. That's right. That's right. Because even in the ebbing, it's still flowing in a much larger scale.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, is so interesting too, because because you can't always have flow. You need that balance, that back and forth, and just like you need night and day. There's a rhythm for that reason.
Right. So are you ready to pull the zip cord and let Michael go to town?
Yes. Hold on a second. He's already going.
He's already going.
So how are you doing, Ed? I mean, Darrell, I'm sorry.
I'm doing good.
My dyslexia switches names. That's part of my problem.
Oh, I do a lot worse, so you're doing good.
How's your wife?
You
need any new picture prod or taking pictures or stuff?
Yes, she's been working with all the reunification of. She's been taking a lot of photos and video of reunification of people with their animals who, when the fires,
absolutely,
animals freaked out.
Yeah.
And then transports of animals from the shelters here to shelters, beautiful shelters in Utah and Arizona and Nevada. They've been flown out, trucked out. So then the shelters here would be open without, filled. So they'd be empty.
Yeah.
Basically. So if the fire went in that direction, they didn't have to panic for the animals, as well as now they're all open to be boarding for people who don't have a place right now where the pets can be. So it's been an incredibly positive in such a seemingly negative situation. So she's really been busy having a great time, being part of that.
That's soul fulfilling. You're not going to pull a Ponder on me, and I see Ponder's book.
I have to, because, all right. Well, first of all.
Are we starting?
Yeah. Welcome back to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. Today's show is called Accepting the Best Life Has to Offer with Reverend Michael Schoonover. Those of you who are watching on YouTube will know what I'm talking about here. But I went into the library, in air quotes, in Darrell's house, and he has this Catherine Ponder book, which is called
one of the best,
The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. And This is the first thing I read. Blessing the substance increases its flow. If your money supply is low or your purse empty, take it in your hands and bless it.
Can you believe this?
See it filled with the living substance ready to become manifest. As you prepare your meals, bless the food with the thought of spiritual substance. When you dress, bless your garments and realize that you are being constantly clothed in God's substance. The more conscious you become of the presence of the living substance, the more it will manifest itself for you, and the richer will be the common good for all.
Bless your way to success.
So we got the Grad Daddy, Reverend Michael Schoonover from your church is called the Unity Way down there, right? And
Unity Way Church in Vista.
In Vista. So you can pop in and see him in person or hop on. I put your link to your website in the description, both on YouTube and the podcasts.
Okay.
So all right, now it's time to pull the string and let the metaphysical master speak. So what do you have to share based on what you've been hearing or what you were thinking before the show? What do you got for us?
I just really think, and it's for all of us, I think we don't spend enough time being present in the present moment. And there lies our challenge. We're usually present, but we're present in the past or a frustration and I think in many ways, to me, it's always like going to the beach and you put your towel on and then you go into the water, you're playing with the water. And then there's a little bit of pull and oh, it's not that bad. You stand up again. And the next time you look up a few minutes later, your towel is way over there. And you don't realize that's the current of the Adamic mass consciousness. We're here, but we get pulled. And the thing is, we have to put ourselves back where we want. It's always a matter of putting us back on point, the focal point within us, which is our divinity. And if you don't have that focal point, or if it's blurry, or if it's a focal point of mixtures, believing in good and evil, that they're fighting each other, that's going to attract, because that goes out into our grid of our aura and becomes our field of attraction. So it's like I did a lesson a couple weeks ago and I had a yellow tie on. That doesn't mean I'm a sour person. And people say, well, that's a dumb thing to say. But see, sometimes that's what it is. We take appearances and we make them bigger than they really should.
Wow, that's a good example.
Yeah.
It's being in the moment, and like I was talking to Ed, we talk about divine order. One of the things I've been reading is divine order, but it's a direct divine order. It's direct to where I needed to be in my own awareness. And also with order, we always think of, to me, it's like a puzzle or a punch-it list. 1, 2, 3, 4. Divine order is really also harmony, being in that tone. So it all's perfectly working the way it's supposed to. It's almost like, to me, like blending dry ingredients if you're making cookies. At first I thought, well, that's a dumb thing. You just put the stuff in and whatever. But it makes sense, because if you do the dry first and then you put the other, then it's easier to mix and melt. And I think sometimes that's kind of like with our prayers. We have these thoughts or images and we really haven't thought them out. And so we just dump them in the bowl or whatever, and not really the prep work, realizing how are we going to do this? So it's not really, to me, it's like when I first came to Unity, I was always, the law was kind of used negatively. You can't do this, you can't do that, can't have no fun. When we die, hopefully it'll be better. But I realized the law is the Lord of our being, and it's a law of cause and effect. And I realized metaphysically, as we know, those 10 commandments, we really can't break. We can think we can, but we really can't. We can't really steal. There is really only one power. We can believe in two powers and have that experience, but it's not really true. We don't want to covet other people's things. We want to affirm if they have it, so can I.
Yes.
I think that something kind of gets lost, because if you flip those 10 commandments, they're powerful tools. And as you know, Georgiana Tree West did the prosperity of the 10 commandments. There is a lot of power in those 10 commandments. I know Eric Butterworth did too, meta morality, and it's also they changed the title on it.
Emmett Fox. Emmett Fox has the 10 Commandments, which I highly recommend.
And there's something,
fantastic.
There's something about that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I was reading a little, I do my daily propaganda or whatever, and I was reading one of the things I copied at the bottom. I didn't catch it when I was copying it. And there's a quote from Eric Butterworth, and Eric Butterworth said, if I came to you and gave you had a glass of water and I poured poison in it, you sure wouldn't drink it. But we do it all the time by allowing outside experiences to get into our soul self, believing they're real, believing that we're limited, believing that we're not worthy, or there's an unpardonable sin, or we didn't make proper amends. And that basically is poison within our own system. And it
Yes.
affects us because, as you know, like the subconscious mind, whatever we allow to come in, the subconscious mind pours it through all of our cellular structure.
Yeah.
That's why if you eat onions, sometimes you can feel it even a day later. And that's what subconscious does if we have negativity. And people say, oh, Reverend Michael, but I'm justified. You know what? I'm not saying you're not, but in the long run, it's not going to work for you. You're the only
Yes.
one who's going to suffer.
That's right.
And it's easy to say, it's hard to do sometimes. It's like when people, whatever people say, I always say, well, it's all good. And they're like, no, it's not all good. It is, because it's all God's substance. And at the atomic level, if I speak to it, like you were talking about with Catherine Ponder, and bless it. See, usually we don't bless it, we be negative toward it. Again, just my luck, it never works on Tuesday. It's really blessing or non-blessing. And we, as you know, we eat the fruit of our own effects. So if we eat and think some things that are not really what we want to experience in our life, they're going to keep out picturing our life. Or, as you know, we will be magnetized to certain people. Like people, I'm getting out of this state. Crazy people, you're crazy people. No crazy people in Wyoming. Here's the deal. If you leave and go there with the same vibration, you will find the same it's a magnetic thing. It's like when people get out of divorce, I always say, give yourself a little time, or a relationship. Give yourself time to come to a oneness within you. Because usually we jump unconsciously to the same kind of people.
Yep.
And we don't know, well, how could that happen? They have a different name. But it's an unconscious thing. And that's why I think it's having a prayer practice. And as Ponder would say too, how many times do we set aside a prayer time just for affirming the supreme good that we truly deserve?
Yes. Can you pause right there for a moment? Because earlier this week, Darrell and I had this amazing exchange because I was meditating. And so I want to set this up. Like, I remember I was always, growing up, I think I've always had a pull towards, I was, Catholic, we were praying, but I also had a pull towards psychology. But everything I heard was so depressing because a lot of it was like, if you have this set of characteristics, then this is the percentage of chance that this is going to happen, or you're screwed if this shows up, or, because it was like taught as if it was like a set thing. You have this.
The
diagnosis is set.
Permanent, and there's not going to be any variation from
Right.
what we are telling you. This diagnosis means
Both physically,
yes,
and then even more and more as time went on, mentally as well, things became. And this turns the whole thing on its head because it says, did you know, though, that that thing that you're saying is set, that you can change that?
yes,
You can reprogram your subconscious mind. You can let go of those beliefs. And the reason I bring that up because I've gotten way more into denials in the last 6 months after reading Emma Curtis Hopkins, after reading I think Raymond Charles Barker, some Joseph Murray, all like H. Emily Cady through Darrell. But the reason I'm saying this, so I was sitting there meditating the other day, and something that has changed for me is sitting, instead of like, oh, I'm these terrible thoughts, what am I going to do? And like, eventually, as I meditate, they'll let go. But I started the other day, I was like, you know what? These aren't even my thoughts. Like, if I was to sit right here, right now, and if I could really choose whatever to think, I wouldn't even start my day with any of these thoughts. So I just denied those thoughts as being me. And it accelerated how quickly I moved through them. And I noticed some of them were like something I saw 2 seconds of on YouTube or 3 or this. It was all getting into the mix. And now I'm learning this is very powerful to say, you know what? I don't have to start from that premise that that's me and then try to find my way. I'm starting with the premise that that's not me. And I'm telling my subconscious mind, that's not me. Now let me state more kind of calmly but firmly and gently, what do I know about God, which is truth, is what do I know about the good, is that God is all good, that I'm an expression of this good, that my good is available to me now. Even if I'm not fully feeling it just yet, I start gently saying that. And then Darrell called me right when I was about to get in the shower. And you remember you were talking about this with the You know what I'm talking about? Because you
Yeah.
said like the exact same experience I just had.
Yes, because
Talk about magnetic. He says he calls me and right after that, and he tells me the same thing in his own words.
Anytime I start playing a YouTube video in my mind, like when you're in the shower and you start thinking of a scenario that doesn't feel good, it could be anything. It could be something from the past, something you're anticipating in the future. We all do it. So whenever I'm doing that now, I can tell, wait a minute, this isn't, it makes me feel like this other being. And I
Yes.
realize because that's not me. It's like what you were saying about if someone puts poison in a glass of water and I see them do it and they hand it to me, I wouldn't drink it. But a YouTube video that's laced with things that make my mind feel ill, I'll play it. And now that's in me. And now I could tell I'm not myself. When I'm condemning, when I'm blaming, when I'm complaining, it becomes so clear that that is not the real me. I could feel the feeling. It's like this alien has taken over my body. So now that that's so clear, just the other day, I sent a video to a friend of mine, a video of my illustrations for the Statue of Liberty. Coincidentally, President Biden, in his farewell speech, was talking about the hidden meaning of the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, if you want to check it out on our Instagram at Darrell and Ed, or Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed on Facebook, you could see it there because we posted it, by the way. It's really good.
Yeah, it just turned out to be a really incredible coincidence, right? That this book came out that I wrote, and now this happens. So I put it together. I made a little video with my illustrations, some music, and it's really like something that makes you feel really good the way it came together, regardless of it being my book even involved. It's just like, wow, this in itself is a feel-good little mini
And the perfect
50-second
music came
video.
together.
Yeah. So I send this to a friend. Hey, check this out. What a coincidence. You know, President Biden mentioned this in his farewell speech about the hidden meaning of Statue of Liberty. She immediately was like, oh, yeah, a last gasp before, something horrible about the world, about the United States and the incoming president. I'm just like, oh. So I just wrote back, thanks for taking a dump on my joy. And I realized I don't have to engage with that. I mean, then she tried to do a Johnny Rotten cover up and say, oh, well, I didn't realize that this was from you. And I'm like, by that point, I'm like, well, then you should have played the video first.
Right.
And if indeed this is the president you love, you should have been like, wow, this is a special thing.
Right.
But no, none of that. And I realized, you know what? She wanted, well, we need to talk. And I was like, I realized I don't need to talk. I don't need to take any of this on. I don't need to drink this poison. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like, because I could feel I felt two people, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I felt if I engage with her and call her back, then I'm going to feel bad either way. Whatever she's going to tell me or however I'm going to try to reassure her that it was just like, ugh. But if I could just go back to being my real self, no, I don't want that poison. I can bless her from afar, bless the video, and move on. I don't need to tell. I'm sharing this story to make a point, but I don't need to go around gossiping with, everyone I know who knows this person.
Right.
Oh, can you believe so-and-so took a
Yes.
dump on my joy, or whatever. And this is what we're talking about. And this is the point you're driving home, Michael. And it's so good to hear that this is a reality. And we have the choice to honor, like you said, the divinity in ourselves, as opposed to, I could just go along and drift along with this poison.
Right. We can learn how to stop poisoning ourselves,
Thank you.
which we may not have realized that we had that power. So go on. Yes.
Absolutely. And I think too, with that the story you told, that really was a reflection of her and where she is in her consciousness. It really has nothing to do with you.
Yeah,
That's right.
Obviously,
and I don't
she's
want
not
that.
And who would want that? That's a fragmented consciousness. But see, it gets entangled, and that's one thing. Oh, you're just those happy people. You don't look. See, I want to live in truth reality. And that is not my reality. I don't affirm that. I don't believe that. It's like mathematics. 1 and 1 is 2. If you keep getting 38, we got a problem. Because
Yeah.
I tried it that way. We try to
Yeah.
manipulate the law. The law works. Emmett Fox used to say this: only stay in the cause side of life. The effects will take care of themselves.
Yes.
And of course, he was an electrical engineer. And that's
Yes.
the reason I like his writing, because he has a crispness, a very logical. And there's nothing
Yes.
wrong with being logical. I think usually our
Right.
ego is illogical, but tries to cover it up in, this is really, you should feel this way, or that's not the right response. And it's really not true, because we decide if we're going to be the focal point of our emerging truth consciousness, or a lot of it growing up, we surrendered it to other people and we become
Yeah.
people pleasers. Like I know I was.
Oh,
We're
yes.
domesticated. We get domesticated, and this is how Michael shows up. This is what's expected of you. And I'm not saying there's a certain structure that you need, but a lot of it, that what was modeled to us, wasn't really proper. The challenge I've had with my own life, and going back and reviewing, because we're always reviewing like an onion in our life, is the ultimate problem I have with people who are manipulators. If you're not happy, say you're unhappy. If you got a problem, let me know. Don't play charades. I just don't like that game, because I don't see it works for any of us. And none of us are
Yeah.
a creative actor. And even if you say the right words, it's the energy that that's being expressed that
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
lie. When somebody is saying one thing and the energy doesn't match.
Oh, yeah.
You feel it. It's kind of like you were saying when you're having your experience. It comes up, and that's an unnatural feeling. And usually, in truth, I catch myself faster. No, I'm not going to go there. And it's not really my thing. Is in truth. Truth is not about uh, being or pushing away life and not living in reality. It's not about turning life off. It's about living through life, but working through the situations, getting to the other side.
Yes.
Yep.
And no, I want to say something. That's the power of no. See, we all love affirmations, and I do too. And I always went there. But with studying Emma in that book, Scientific Christian Mental Practice, which to me is the foundation of all the real basically Unity books,
Yeah.
she says the power of no.
Oh, I use it all the
No,
time.
it's
Yep.
not real. See, what we do is we start in our affirmations. I'm a child of God. The indwelling Christ has helped me. I'm healed and healed. And then 20 minutes later, God, I hope that worked.
Yeah.
And I think we fall into that because that's the world we live in. Turn on the news.
Do I have to?
No, I watch very little news because it's always very depressing.
Yeah.
And we live in a system that negativity is really what's newsworthy. And
Yeah.
if you're really happy or whatever, people think, oh, you must be on meds. You're happy because you got
Right.
like going to church. I have to be happy in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a constant mindset. And I'm not saying it's always easy, because family relationships can be our greatest of teachers, processing. But again, they're on their own life journey, and I can be there to support them, but I don't have to take on necessarily their complexes. And see, what you're saying
Yes.
about psychology is true. And this is the challenge, what most of your teachers would say: when you identify and define something like a psychosis or a complex, your ADD or whatever, there's something about that, because the real self in you doesn't have ADD. Now, I did. They called it ants in the pants. Now they have a better name for it. But the problem is, when we identify it, it becomes a thing to us.
Well, then it's a limit, because now
Yeah,
I own that.
absolutely.
I see this.
Absolutely.
I can't believe just this morning I was talking about this. My problem now, working like with guys at the VA, because sometimes I'll go up there, to assist with guys that are, in there for recovering from substances. And the problem is they're given so many labels that, and they identify now
Absolutely.
I'm not, and that's not their fault. They have a guy in a lab coat,
Mhm.
has doctor in front of his name,
Right.
saying, well, what your problem is? You're this, this, and this. And you
Yeah.
also have this. So now when I meet them, they're like, when I'm suggesting something, I know that'll work from my personal experience, having experienced all those things that they're labeled with, they're reluctant, not because they're being belligerent. It's because, unfortunately, someone of credibility has told them, this is your diagnosis, and they start owning it to the point of it becomes an identity.
Absolutely.
Where it's like, well, I can't do that because I have what do you call it when you can't you're too fast to like read anything or meditate? You're what?
What, the ADHD thing, or
Is it ADHD
or OCD or
yeah, OCD?
Yeah.
That's the big one. So I have OCD, so I can't meditate. Well, I couldn't meditate either when I first in my mind. I thought to myself, you can't meditate, you can't sit still,
right?
but you got to try it. Take a step into it. But once you now it becomes this label, and it starts becoming like a cool badge of honor for
Exactly.
some.
Mhm.
Well, now I don't want to prove this wrong because I'm going to lose my identity.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Even if it's a false identity.
yes,
The problem is that's the false identity.
I know.
That's why I always say, you forget your DNA. I have this in my life. I have this in my life. I'm like, well, what if you get run over by a bus? Is that in your DNA?
Yeah,
So, and I'm not saying science doesn't have its place, but to me, the secret is, or the truth is going back to our divinity.
yes,
A lot of these things may appear real. And remember, Jesus said, do not judge by appearances. That's all we do. And
Yeah.
appearances are based on facts. And at certain levels or dimensions, that may be true. But we're not limited. See, that's how we self-limit ourselves. And I also believe, too, any challenge we have in life, there's always a spiritual component somewhere embedded within it. And that's why I
Yes.
almost think we're always on a spiritual
Yes.
recovery, because we have this amnesia. When we come into this world, we come amnesia. We don't remember. And then we get, this is how you show up, or this is what you're Irish and you're, and we take on these identities. And then the ego loves identities because they create separation. So
Yeah.
then when you talk about wholeness and oneness, that doesn't mean nothing. That's hooey-fooey.
Yeah, well, the important thing to remember with all of this, too, for anyone who's listening, is there is the positives of what psychology and medicine can do is it takes the guilt out of the situation, right?
That's the positive, yes.
Because it's like, okay, there is something, because there is indeed something going on. It's being evidenced on the physical or the mental level. So that's not what we're saying here.
Person.
So, but we're saying, and what I've done myself, I've been through the more typical. I needed it. It's not like it helped me through a certain period. But what you do is keep doing what you're doing if that's helping you, because you can't rip something away from someone, but you can tell them, look, add this, but then you add, because what did Jesus do? For one, first place we need to apply all of this, and Darrell and Michael, that's why they're speaking about this, and myself, is to our own thinking.
Yes.
So when we use denial, it's like the beggar thought is there. I know it's there. So a lot of times we run to affirmation out of fear of the beggar thought. We don't want to see it, but the denial is the Christ within us looking at the beggar like in the stories and going, I hear you, and I see your wholeness, because wholeness is the only thing that's real to me.
Absolutely.
But Jesus didn't take the guy's mat from him. He said, Are you willing to be made whole? Do you want it? And then he said, then pick up your mat and walk, because we're doing ourselves a disservice from a psychology standpoint, is these parts of us are looking for healing. That's why they're coming forward to us. And we turn to them as the Christ and give them the message, and they will stand down. And we don't have to sit and wait. Are they standing? I say it, and then I go back to affirming the truth. I was talking to my wife about this. We've been talking about on the show. Jesus would go to the elevated standpoint, perspective with the Father, come down, heal, then go back up to the mountain. That's what we do. We come down, we do our denial, we do it, and then we go back to our affirmation and go about our business. I just want to throw that part in, because you can still do your wherever you're at. Just start adding this into your practice, and you will, and don't even expect the doctors to know about it. It's okay. That's not your job is to start integrating it into your healing, and you'll be blown away.
Well, maybe if I say this, people will understand that I'm not saying that these diagnoses aren't helpful, but I'm saying what my experience is the part of the story of the guy on the mat, which is a parable, which means it's an example of a human condition. And the human condition that had to be overcome first was do you want to be made well? And the
Yes.
first thing he said was, no, I have this diagnosis and I come here for 35 years.
Right.
What I'm saying is, he had to, no, are you willing to be made whole? What I'm trying to say is, the unfortunate thing of the people I've been coming in contact with is they want to stay in the story as I've been coming here for 35 years and this is what I am and I'm not going to try anything new because this is what I am.
Right.
What we're trying to say and what we know is true is, yes, we all have our things. And I've known many people, including myself, who may have certain conditions, psychological or physical, but am I willing to move on and have a bigger life? Do I want to continue to feel this way and act this way and be this way? Or am I willing to grow in any way possible? And that is when the change happens. What I was trying to drive home is the bad impression, like Michael was saying, judging by appearances and then taking on those appearances at the expense and ruling out any option because I'm saying, no, I was born this way. I mean, my brother, who was a federal agent, he just retired at 58. He had to go to court a lot with, people who had been arrested, and he had to testify because he was part of the investigation, part of the team. And he would call me all the time and go, oh boy. I go, what? He goes, I sit here because we both had the same life. And he goes, I'm sitting here and so-and-so is being tried for some heinous crime. And we don't need to mention, but a heinous crime. And the lawyer and the jury, like the lawyer was pointing out, well, his parents, did divorce when he was 10 years old and X, Y, and Z. And my brother's sitting there and he goes, every time he's like, wait, that's it? Like, that's it? Because me and my brother had everything but a fire in the orphanage.
Right.
And we're like, wait a minute. But on a positive note, it gives me and my brother reassurance, like, holy cow, thank God for the principles we picked up.
Yeah.
Because and that's kind of like the inside joke with this, like he's not just condemning them.
Yes.
The inside joke to us is also, holy crap, Eric. It's a miracle we have the lives we have today.
Yeah.
But we know what to thank for it.
Yeah.
Our willingness, do you want to be made whole? Yes. Well, are you willing to try something that I know works that you may think is silly, like believing in a higher power, like trying to learn to meditate? Yeah, I'll try it. And then we get it. It works.
Yes.
And we're like, holy cow.
Yep.
So that's what we're trying to say.
And this is real-time stuff. You're talking
Right.
about real-time stuff. I want to say, one, we have to be our own soul doctors.
Yes.
And that's what we do. We're our own psychiatrists. So you can get all this wisdom. And I'm not saying on some level it's not true. When you get to that story about the mat in that story represents the level of his grounded being, which was false.
Yes.
That's right.
And the only way he could get up is he had to lift himself up to a higher understanding of truth.
Yes.
And actually, Jesus didn't, I'll do it for you, stand back. We have to self-actualize ourselves.
That's right.
Because otherwise, it's just like you can't eat food for somebody else.
Yeah.
Our prayer time is to nourish us. I'm not saying we don't support people. And I'm not saying, again, I love meds. Meds are great. But with prayer, meds can work better.
Oh, yes.
Because we
I
teach
agree.
mind science. I'm not against anything. But the challenges you have is, again, the ego takes on identities.
Yes.
And then we become even more fragmented. And I really believe all of us at some level are probably spiritually schizophrenic, because we have all this brokenness stuff within us and things come up to be healed, these different things. Truth is just giving me a way to walk through it.
Yes.
That's right.
And I think and again, I guess divine order again. And I think it's not judging, making anyone wrong. Everything serves its place.
Yep.
But the challenge is, I think metaphysics is really spiritual psychology. It's, Are we willing to change? See, most of us are not really willing to change.
That's right.
It's like I have people come into counseling. I cannot forgive them. And I'm like, well, you have every right to continue to do that. But I'm going to tell you, only you will suffer the consequences of that.
Yeah.
It's like putting poison in your body. But I'm
Yeah.
right. See, there's a point where right, wrong doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
called, it used to upset me so much in the church because it says in the Bible that God reigns on the righteous and the unrighteous. And that doesn't seem fair from a human point. But
Right.
you see, from a oneness, it rains on everybody. Just like the clouds go through all the sky. And I think, again, we're so focused in our humanity on separation. And it's interesting, too. Somebody asked Charles Fillmore before he transitioned, if you had to rename unity and didn't use the word unity, what name would you choose for this movement? And he said, I'd use the word change. Because if we're never, see, the thing is, we're willing to change to a certain point, but change is something that evolves. It goes on and on. You never can be the same.
Yes.
And I think that's what happens like in relationships too. We're always growing. I believe we either grow together or we grow apart, but we're going to grow. Because that's part of the nature of self-expression.
That's right.
And we are a living, breathing entity here at this time. And I think sometimes we don't have enough self-compassion for ourselves.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then the reason why I pointed out the part that I brought to the page is that I want people to know. I don't want people to write off what they're saying, what they're hearing, because they think, oh, I'm doing this, or they're feeling guilt. Like, we're telling you, wherever you are, whatever course of action you're choosing, you can apply this stuff, and the stickler is if you limit yourself within that. If you really want, if you want to cling to that place, which is inherent in a lot of these places, that this is what we're talking about, and I started this conversation from this point of view. What's inherent in the belief system of a lot of it's changing, it's evolving, but in psychology and medicine is that there's a limit, and it's based on these limitations. And we're saying if you're going into those environments, what you just said is key, and what Darrell was saying is key. You still are the captain of your own vessel. Like if you're going there for like some adult, like you have a parent, which is God, truly. We all do. So God is truly like the captain on a bigger level. But as mature adults, I've had to learn, like, am I going to the doctor because I want mommy and daddy to tell me like what to do? Or am I going as one adult to another adult? He's gone to school. He knows something I don't do. Like, it changes everything. And wherever you are on this spectrum, it's these states of mind.
Yes.
Like, if you're going to come to me, I know people like this, and it's like you can still go and do those things, but just keep your mind open to, if you believe in these powers and these principles, they're telling you that you are limitless. It might take some time. Myrtle took time from the time she had her awareness to the time when she was fully healed.
And that's a good point there. If it wasn't for Myrtle being diagnosed with tuberculosis and Charles Fillmore having tuberculosis and had a limp, if it wasn't for that terrible quote experience, we wouldn't have unity today.
That's
so
right.
Out of that negative something really birthed beautiful out of it.
Yes.
I think sometimes we forget that what we wrote, it's like people say, oh, the past is all rosier. The past isn't as rosy as we think.
No, it was always the same.
God.
It was always the same.
It's about human. It's about really, because we're both human and divine.
Yeah.
And I think I was thinking about when you're talking about Jesus. Jesus knew he was going to die, he crucified. He had to say, well, blessed are the poor, but this isn't fair for me because I know how the story's going to end. So blessed are whatever. See, we know how the story ends, and I think we take it again out of the historical context. Despite that, Jesus continued on his mission. That's what a master teacher does.
Yeah.
They continue despite appearances, because the truth they know, and as you know, we know on a spiritual level, the only thing permanent in this world is our souls. Everything else will dissolve back into the invisible. I don't care if it's your rings, your cars, your tires, even my books. Eventually, you're going to go back to where they came from.
Yeah.
Our soul, and that's why being our soul physician, our soul psychologist, really our soul savior. That's why I always say we need to be our own savior.
That's
We
what
need
happened with
to-
Myrtle, right? She got an
Absolutely.
affirmation. She was also conditioning her mind.
Yes.
She didn't give thanks for the physical condition. In the circumstance, she gave thanks that as a child of God, I don't even inherit illness.
That's
It's
right.
like, so the denial, but she wasn't going around telling people, I'm sure she wasn't like, no, that's not happening physically. She probably denied it within herself, gave thanks that within, doesn't matter. I am not fooled by this.
Absolutely.
As a child of God, I don't inherit sickness. So she took out the part that we're talking about, which
Absolutely.
inherited it. I have to have it. I inherited. I have to have
Or
it.
they say-
They said.
they
So
say
That's
you're gonna
original
die
sin.
from this.
See, that's
Yes.
the problem with original sin. It like puts a net over us. So we're always thinking we're less than. We're never, and I'm not talking about being narcissistic here, and that's the challenge. I think original sin is really one of the worst things that Western civilization is bought into, because
Yeah.
we believe that we're not worthy, or somebody else has to do it for us. We're our own self saviors. See, here's the thing. We come into this incarnation alone, and we're going to leave alone. Now, we might
Right.
go in a group, but individually, we're on our individual soul journey, and that's not being against anyone else. But
Yeah.
that's the way that's the way this dimension works.
Well, the liberation of the original sin comes through what I heard Butterworth say, and Darrell heard McClure even simplify the wording of it, which is it's original self-imposed nonsense.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. If we believe it to be true as creative beings and decide that it's true for us, it will show up in our life.
That's right,
it becomes
because
a vibrational grid match.
most people aren't told that it's self-imposed nonsense. They
Oh,
call it
absolutely.
God-imposed nonsense,
Absolutely.
original gin. But it's actually original sin, which is self-imposed. That's whatever's going on. Find the self-imposed nonsense and release it, and you will be healed because it's
Absolutely.
principle. It has to happen. It
it
can't
has-
not happen.
No, because again, it's a law of vibration, cause and effect.
Yeah.
You can't think of this is why I talk about forgiveness too. If you think yourself as junk or trash or
Yeah.
what kind of forgiveness and love can you give to somebody else? Oh, that's different. I love her.
Right.
That's my mommy and daddy. I'm going to tell you a little secret. Your brokenness, and wherever you are on that level, like love, if it's conditioned really, that's the highest frequency you can give to anyone in your world, even your pets.
That's right.
You have to be it to give the energy out. And I think
Yes.
sometimes that's where we play with the ego. How you doing? Oh, everything's just great. And you got 4 flat tires. No, it's not great. Your energy. See, and that's, I think, too, one of the things about meditation. It makes you more psychically aware and sensitive to energies. And so you dial in much quicker. So
Yeah,
you can
definitely.
go into a room and they don't even say anything, and you're picking up, there's something wrong here. Or we need to deal with something. And I think that's that intuitiveness that we have within us. But a lot of times it's not a yelling voice. Usually the ego is what yells and screams and stomps its foot.
Yeah, that's so true, man. All right, well, let's get to the reading. We got to wrap up the show. We could talk to you for 3 hours, but
We'll have you back.
we'll have you back again to do that. And yeah, well, do you have the reading now?
I have it
ready?
right here.
All right,
From
great.
really a true teacher, Joyce Kramer. What a powerful soul. What a powerful soul. So her affirmation is, I increase my faith in God and in God's abundant, limitless blessings by speaking positive words. Thousands of years before the development of modern scientific and psychological knowledge, human beings recognized to some degree the power of the spoken word to change their circumstances and their lives. The words we speak are directives to the creative power within us.
Mm-hmm.
A healthy person who continually states, I am sick, will be sick. The rich man who frequently states that he is poor will lose what he has. The influence of words upon one's body and affairs is remarkable. Therefore, it would behoove us to speak that which we truly desire to experience. Words of health, prosperity, peace, and power should be used regularly. The words you speak at mealtimes, at work, and all through the day and evening are affecting your mind, body, and affairs. To change your life for the better, speak words that express positive thoughts, thoughts that acknowledge prosperity, health, love, beauty, and joy. Each word you speak will still have an effect according to its positive or negative nature. Use your words wisely. And from the Hebrew scriptures, this is Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Pure truth. That's called a metaphysical treatment. That's like getting a prescription.
Yes,
Yeah.
we just got a great prescription.
It's a
True.
prescription. And I think too, when you see one of the things too, when she's talking about being positive, she's not talking about an Adamic duality positive. We'll just put icing over the bad cake. It'll look new. And see, many times that's what we do with our life. We put, we put on new clothes. I'm not a vagabond. I got a members jacket. Oh God, I'm dating myself. But we're more than our clothes. Now they say something about us, but actually, like we clothe ourselves, like you were saying, with our thoughts. Are we
Yeah.
clothing ourselves with really peace, love? Jesus said, "Do not resist evil." Take that one into prayer. Because that's all we're taught. You're not going to let this happen. We got to fight this. We got to fight
That's
for our
right.
right. We
That's
can't.
right.
Jesus said, "Do not," because what you're resisting will just keep you locked to that frequency.
And
Yes.
I'm
that's
not
why
saying you don't agree, but
yeah.
it's a human thing. Then it becomes warped, and that's where I always say, they say, Reverend Michael, how do I know where the Adamic consciousness is? I said, turn on the TV, watch the news. It's
Yeah.
all the time. Every day it's a new thing. The world's going to hell. Things are bad. The Jews don't even believe in hell. Now, hell is a state of awareness when you're living in bad ego land, and I know because
Yeah.
I've had it.
Right.
But we don't. You have to choose. It's like I had shingles 3 times through a couple of years, and I finally got to the point. And that's really when I came to Unity, because I fought Unity because of my traditional background. This is an
Right.
old, they don't recognize Jesus. When I read Charles Fillmore say that we're divine, I threw the book on the floor. I'm like, oh my God, it's an occult religion, because I had such a low self-esteem because Lord, I'm not worthy to accept you. When did Jesus
Right.
ever say, I am worthy? That's why I'm with you.
Right.
Because the ego, it's a form of separation again.
That's right.
Separation is really what sin is. And anything that separates us from the wholeness, there we're going to have a problem. And
Yes.
the I want to say too about denial. Denial is not stating that something didn't happen. If the tires are flat, we're not going to get into the car and start driving. That's stupid. That's foolishness. But a denial is, this is not going to be my reality. This is not going to control my consciousness. And
Yes.
it was very hard for me to do that because I didn't know I could do that.
That's right. That's the key right there. That's what we keep pounding home, is teaching us that we can do that. And
Self-teaching.
self-teaching. And after all this, we got to wrap up the show. I was thinking, take something we can all take something for 30 days and
Absolutely.
stop resisting something. You know, if you're resisting,
Absolutely.
the belief that that thing can get better, and secretly fighting it and holding on
Yes.
to it. Because until I stop doing it, at least for a few days, I'll still keep going back to it. But if I can just be present and keep making a new choice it will not take 30 days, but within a few days, something new will start happening, which will show us that
It
thing
has
that we
to.
thought we had to fear and fight, it's not
Yeah.
even real. It
It
was a
has to.
temporary situation, and it will leave us, and it will improve, because that's what the law does. All right, Michael Schoonover. We appreciate your time and your wisdom.
I want
And
to say one thing. Life is like driving a car. If you don't hold the steering wheel, you're not going to direct where you're going to go.
That's
And I
true.
think many of us don't want to hold the steering wheel, or we hold it and let go, hold it and let go. If we're really the Christ, the divinity within us, when we want to go someplace, we need to hold that steering wheel, because we're the directing power in our own consciousness.
that's right.
And that's self-responsibility. And it seems scary, but I'll tell you, you can drive into some really wonderful dreams instead of living in some slums or
There
some
you go.
broken alleys where there's just trash to be picked up.
Right on. I love that. That's a great closing remark. We got a little story here. Apparently, Michael Schoonover's first grade teacher, Mrs. Debenport, was teaching a math lesson one day and asked the class.
If you have 5 bottles in
No.
one,
And asked the class,
yeah. If I have 5 bottles in one hand and 6 in the other, what do I have?
Michael waved his hand in the back of the class, and his teacher finally called on him.
Mrs. Davenport, you've got a drinking problem.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. And we're drinking fragmented Adamic ego drinks, and there lies our problem.
That's right.
It's really, we all deserve more. We deserve the wholeness who we are. And
And it's
that's what
here
the
for
I
us.
am says. That's what the I am says. So
And
Let's give
we
thanks
know-
for it now.
We know just the way to get it.
Everywhere it's thanks and prairies, no nightmares. Yes, this is insanity. Claim we're rich, bless the poor, till we're all.
Rich for sure.
I'd love to thank the world,
And
and I know just what to do. So I'll bless it. How about you?
Thank you for being a part of Funniest Thing with
Impressed.
Darrell and Ed.
Please subscribe, share the show with your friends, like the videos. And I'd love to thank the world. And I know just what to do. So I'll bless it. How about you?
Perfect. Bless both of you. Bless all your listeners. Bless all of us because we deserve it.
Yes, sir. All right.
God
Bye,
bless
Michael.